Hello everyone, hi, how are you guys doing today? Welcome back to another reaction episode to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is Haarute, my name is Matt, hello, what's up? Okay, Buffy. Last time on Buffy, what happened? Joyce is gonna die possibly within the next 5 minutes of runtime. The overarching storyline right now is about Joyce having some kind of brain tumor that she's now going into surgery about. Last episode, we got to see her decay a little bit in the sense that she was just losing her mind. She was just saying random things and acting strangely and lashing out for no reason and then apologizing for it because she's just not realizing what is happening because it's a brain tumor and that's kind of what happens. There is also, of course, what's happening with Gloria, whatever she's doing. She seems to be creating this sort of disease. At least we saw that she touched this one guy, and then last episode we got to see that that one guy became one of the very unwell people that just started spewing crazy stuff. But also he was able to see that Dawn wasn't normal. Like he got like an insight into that. So we have to assume that all of the people that have been like that in the past like month or a couple months since the beginning of the season, really, you can assume that Gloria has been doing that. But that also raises the question because Joyce had earlier in the season and also previous episodes, she looked at Dawn and she was like you're not real, right? Like she had a moment of clarity, and she even brought that up to Buffy last episode in what I'm going to interpret as their final goodbye. So there's a connection to be drawn between what happened to Joyce and whatever her brain tumor is to what is happening to those other people. So I'm wondering if all those other people have a brain tumor, and I'm wondering if the nature of the brain tumor is like of supernatural origin. And then there's also the doctor guy. I don't we probably got his name, I forgot, but the doctor guy that we have been seeing a little bit every now and then. That guy, he has been revealed to be another like big supernatural force, because the minion that was following Gloria is also reporting to him and asking him why did he summon the like Quelcher demon or whatever. Last episode we got a Quelcher alien demon that just showed up and started killing all the unwell, crazy, whatever people, and it seems like that has been happening throughout the ages. And the conversation that the doctor gave was essentially, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm cleaning over Gloria's mess, as I always do, which implies that both Gloria and him have been around for millennia or whatever, doing the exact same act. And I don't know what that act is. I don't know what is the purpose of it, but we have to point it out. And I have to say, like, of course, all of that is happening in like the mystery of the season or whatever. I'm kind of just thinking about whatever might be happening with Joyce and what is happening with Buffy, really, as an extension of that, because Joyce, I feel like she's fucking dead. And the reason for that is because we've been, like, just from a storytelling perspective, like, they're doing a lot of things that is making me think that she's just fucking dead. Like, there's no way she's gonna make it. Last episode, we got a full scene where Buffy and Joyce talked, and it felt very personal. And then at the very end, Joyce just kind of hugged her and was like, "Oh, my brave Buffy!" Like it was so emotional that I feel like that was a goodbye. And like looking forward into whatever's gonna happen, like she's either gonna die during surgery or the thing is supernatural origin, so it's just not gonna be easy to remove, or whatever might happen. Joyce is dead. That's what I'm thinking. And also we have the ominous tower that you might not know what the fuck that is, but if you've been watching my channel, I saw Tara pull out the tower card, and ever since then I've just been going like, okay, this might be the season where everybody dies and everything goes to shit. And that's the reason why people have been telling me like season 5 is really good or whatever ever since I started the show. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm feeling this sense of Like, I'm watching the recaps for every episode, and every single one of those recaps feels like very chunky. It doesn't feel like I'm gonna watch like a whatever enemy villain of the week, whatever dumb bullshit episode that we have pretty much every season. And even in this season, we had like the episode where we have like two Sanders, and that's one of the, like, you know, kind of more light episodes. But I feel like season 5 has been the season that so far has been the one with more, like, I'm kind of at the edge of my seat here, and like, stakes are high, and it's because Buffy feels way more dedicated, and it feels like everything around her also starts to feel more real. Because if we have been following this coming of age story with Buffy, it feels like we are now hitting that point that not everybody hits, and some people it happens at different times, but it's that low point in your life where things go wrong, right? Because generally what happens with Buffy is that Buffy does overcome adversity. It feels to me like this might be the point where we're gonna see something that's so bad that she is not gonna be able to overcome just like that, which is the death of a loved one. Your guardian, your parent, Joyce, dies. And then she has to deal with that. She has to deal with taking care after Dawn. She has to deal with whatever, all this fucking bullshit that's gonna happen as a result of it. Like, it feels like this is what the show is setting itself up to be now. And it is very intriguing and very depressing. So that's kind of how I've been feeling watching this season so far. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm pretty sure I said it when I was watching last episode. When that scene happened, when they were just talking to each other before her surgery, I literally just went like, there is 0% chance that Joyce survives this season, maybe even the next minute. And then she did survive the next minute because the episode ended. I'm just sitting here like, the next time I tune in for Buffy, she's just gonna fucking die instantly. That's how I feel. So that's where I'm at. That's the mindset I'm coming into this episode with. And hey, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and she will be okay. You know, we're all going to be okay. The surgery is gonna work and she's gonna recover and everything's gonna be lovely. I don't think that that's gonna happen. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I feel like she's dead. Anyway, that's it. You know, there's a bunch of shit happening this season. We even have like Spike going on. There's the whole Riley situation. Like, Riley and Buffy are kind of done. He's going and getting involved with the vampires just to feel like somebody needs him, because he feels like he's not needed around Buffy. So he just kind of goes and has vampires suck him off. Literally, not even in a weird sense, just literally that's what they do, just because he wants to feel like somebody needs like him around, which a vampire does because they're literally parasites. So he's willing to have that happen to him just to feel something, which is very weird. But then he goes and like really puts himself out, being like, I'm gonna solve this, I'm gonna save the people, I'm gonna do good, I'm gonna defeat the evil, because like he needs to feel like he's the hero, because he feels like if he's not doing that, then he's not good enough. And that being the case, it really is making him so like, well, like the relationship with Buffy, they're very far apart now. Like, he's really like, okay, Buffy is really focusing on her situation with her mom and Dawn, as she should be. And Riley is really focused on himself and how he feels, which is a little selfish. But at the same time, I feel like they both have to acknowledge the fact that we can maintain a relationship like this. That's just a fact. And I feel like neither of them are acknowledging that. I feel like Riley is the one person that is actually thinking about the relationship, but he's not acknowledging the problem. Instead, he's going for very unhealthy ways of coping with it, and like that just sucks. So yeah, Riley and Buffy are definitely splitting at the very least. It might end in some kind of like fight or tragedy or both. I don't know how it's gonna end, but I feel like that is definitely happening at some point. Okay, I feel like I've been talking for too long. I feel like we should probably just begin with the episode now. So yeah, Patreon, check out the links below, pop up on the screen. You can watch the next 2 episode reactions to Buffy, as well as Angel full watch along reactions, all sorts of cool stuff that I do. All of it is on Patreon. So if you want to watch all of that early and full, you can do so over there. Just supporting the channel mostly. So yeah, let us begin. Oh, I forget. Happy New Year, everybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's been a little bit since the New Year, but Happy New Year. I'm recording this on the final days of December. Hopefully, this will go up on the final days of December still for the Patreon people. Otherwise, I feel really bad about it because my schedules haven't necessarily been super forgiving on me lately. So I really want to have this one done. But Happy New Year, Patreon people, and Happy New Year, people on YouTube. But delayed. You guys are already on the New Year. So yeah, let us begin. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, season 5, episode 10. Let's go.
Buffy's like nobody else in the world, but she doesn't love me.
Okay, we're doing the Roman shit episode instead of the mom dying episode.
Mother has
Well, maybe both at the same time for extreme melodrama. That is a scary recap because there's no like overarching like enemy plot. It's just what's going on in Buffy's life, which is very concerning for what's gonna happen this episode.
I can't stand this. What's taking so long?
It doesn't mean anything.
Okay. They're really building this up. They're really doing it. I'm telling you right now, if she made it through the surgery, I'm kind of want to worry more. Because I feel like the way they've been setting this up is that she's gonna die. So I would be worried that something else is gonna happen to her. But I think they're just gonna tell her that she died. That's what I think. That entire sequence when they're just sitting there waiting, I also started to feel like this pit on my stomach of like the uneasiness of waiting, just sitting here.
It was possible to visualize the tumor completely, which means I was able to get all of it. So, barring complications and recovery, your mother's going to be fine. Of course, we're still going to have to watch your mother carefully and have her back in here for some follow-up testing. But overall, I'd consider the procedure a complete success.
I'm still just like, oh my god, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Believe me, it's my pleasure.
Oh. Ow! Sorry. And then Buffy would chase me around the house yelling, I am the Slayer, I'm going to get you.
That's disturbing. You're emotionally scarred and will end up badly. Oh, we could play that game again. Life. That was fun.
I like...
You always win. We can make a wager this time. You can give me real money. That would be different.
And after we teach her how to gamble, maybe we can all get drunk.
I like this. We get to see her Dawn at Xander's house with Anya. It's like interesting to see how Xander and Anya are just kind of like evolve as people. Like they live in a house, you know? And we get to see the beginning of that already, but we actually now get to see it.
Monkeys are all irrational. We have to see this.
Alone time always translates into get Dawn out of the house so we could have loud, obnoxious sex.
Oh, does that mean we can't?
I put the whole night on repeat.
This feels too good right now. It makes me uneasy.
I want tonight to be special for you.
It's more than special.
What I'm thinking now is that doctor could quell Joyce, even though the Queller demon was defeated. He's a doctor in that hospital. He has access to her.
You stayed strong throughout, Buffy. You never even cried.
I cried. I cried so hard I didn't think I was going to be able to stop.
Didn't cry around him.
Oh.
That's all in the past now. Mom's out of the woods. And I'm here with you. That's all that matters.
Like, Riley's not necessarily a person that Buffy leans on whenever she needs to. The idea that, like, the person that you're truly in love with is not the person that you're in during the good times, it's the person that you're with during the bad times. Is Spike just fucking watching them fuck? He fucking holds up a boombox. Don't tell me you're just gonna go out and start getting fucking high on vampires sucking on you or whatever. Spike's just watching. was gonna follow him and be like, what is he doing? And he's gonna see how he's gonna go get fucking drank by Rain the vampires just to feel something.
I don't know, Buffy. I think I look like I had a cat on my head.
But a very well-groomed cat.
Must be getting better because you're making fun of me. I want you to have your life back.
Right now, I'd rather be here, styling your beautiful new plastic dream hair.
Go out, have fun. Get Riley to take you to a movie or something.
I gave Riley the day off.
I don't think he thinks of you as a chore, Buffy.
I told him to make plans with his friends because I wanted to have you all to myself. Besides, I can see him anytime.
What have we got?
Louise, last transmission.
Looks like we got ourselves a hot spot. Tell the men to get ready.
What about Riley? Agent Finn. I'm telling you, sir, if we go in for a sweep and drop, he's definitely a guy we want on the team.
Let's bring him on board.
Might take a little convincing.
Riley?
It's me.
Every time you show up like this, you risk all of your parts, you know that?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a good reason. I'm here to help you, and are you naked under there?
Dude, focus.
Get out.
You need to see this. We need to move if we want to get there in time. Oh, please. Like I give a bloody damn.
Bro. Leave the room. Oh my god. I like that Buffy trusts him enough to just like go with him. Like they are begrudgingly just kind of friends at this point.
Don't start slaying. This isn't what we're here for.
Harder.
Okay.
We only came here because we care about you, friend.
Oh my god, Spike, shut up.
You need help.
He's enjoying this so much.
Hey,
I thought you should know.
She's gonna be dealing with a lot. Like, oh my god, Spike was hoping that she would immediately jump on his arms or whatever. And it's like, dude, she wants to be alone right now.
Is that the Slayer? What the hell do you think you're doing bringing the Slayer here?
oh man, I didn't know. Sit back off.
I was gonna say, like, the fact that they didn't identify the Slayer when she first came in. I guess they identified her once she, like, fucking pushed that guy into a wall. They're right there.
Get out.
We have a code 1 in Belize. A demon
Okay.
tribe is taking apart missionaries in the rainforest down there. We're going down to terminate their operation. Want you to join us.
Just leave. Just fucking leave. Have a note.
Put the government a long way back.
We're not government. We're army.
Just like you.
It's not the initiative, Finn. We don't do experiments.
Okay,
None of us
sis.
give a damn what makes monsters tick. We just stop them. I think you can handle yourself. And I always need bodies. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's the real deal. High risk, low pay, and seriously messy. We ship out for Central America tomorrow midnight. Now maybe civilian life is working out for you, and maybe not. Midnight, tomorrow. Decision's yours.
Okay. I mean, it's just a way for him to just be out of the show. Just completely, just immediately. Christmas, Kwanzaa, everyone, every single one. Hey, this is right on time. Hey, wow, I never been like right on time with the show actually. It is currently December 27th, so I guess I'm just like a couple days off.
Make fun of the ex-demon? I can just hear you in private. I dislike that Anya. She's newly human and strangely literal.
What? I don't say that. No one says that.
I've been very good for this store. If it wasn't for me, Giles would be a terrified old man staring at a quarterly tax statement and wetting himself.
I say, that's an exaggeration.
Anya, you've helped out a lot, but I have too.
Yes, I forgot about all the vigorous sitting around.
Anya, you can back off a little. You get paid. Willow's doing this on her own time.
Thank you for making time in your busy life to come in here and get in the way of mine.
Anya, play nice.
You know, fine. Take her side instead of mine, even though I'm the one who sleeps with you and feeds you, bathes you.
She bathes you?
Only in an erotic, penthousey way, not in a sponge bathy geriatric sort.
Please. Stop, I beg you.
Oh boy, everyone's just stressed the fuck out and
I
fighting.
need to find out everything I can about a vamp nest downtown. It looked like they were paying vampires to bite them.
Yeah, vampire junkies.
Now I know it.
Not vampires that are junkies, but people that are junkies because of vampires.
Humans hire.
The hazards of the underworld can become addictive to some people.
Why don't the vampires just kill them?
Because they get cash, hot and cold running blood, and, well, they don't leave any corpses behind, so they don't get hunted.
But
Yeah.
You knew about this and you didn't tell me?
I haven't seen it since my Ripper days. I had no idea it was going on in Sunnydale.
Well, it is.
Even if I had known about this, I might not have told you right now.
What?
Well, I'm not sure it's
Your mom's
it's the best
dying.
way. Perhaps you should focus on a less ambiguous evil. Glory, for instance? They're willing victims. I mean, there are people out there who deserve your help who aren't.
Vampires are vampires, and my job description is pretty clear. Are you coming with me or not?
What's the rush, Buff? If
Yeah,
we wanted to
something's
invest, maybe we
happening.
should come up with a strategy. Wait for Riley.
Back me up or not. I'm going.
Rough day for everybody.
There's got to be a way to find these creeps.
Don't worry, Buff. You'll find them.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get them next time, champ.
Burn down the house, yeah.
What took you?
Hey, let's be reasonable about this. You may have noticed, Spike. I left reasonable about 3 exits back.
Don't kill the messenger.
Why the hell not?
There's no way Spike is leaving the show.
Bloody hell!
Yeah, he's still alive. He didn't die immediately. That's a vampire slayer.
Plastic wood grain. Looks real, doesn't it?
Okay.
Don't think I don't know what's going on with you, Spike. We'll do this for real next time.
Oh, man. You're really under it, aren't you? Look at you. All afraid I'm hot for your honey.
Because you are.
Well, yeah, but that's not your problem. Even if I wasn't in the picture, you're never going to be able to hold on to her. Oh! Come on! You're not the long-haul guy, and you know it.
Shut up.
I mean, it's
You
true.
know it. Or else you wouldn't be getting suck jobs from 2 big vampire trolls. The girl needs some monster in her man.
You actually think you got a shot with her?
No, I don't. Fella's got to try, though.
They both just start drinking together. Like, yeah, same, bro.
Ain't love grand.
Yeah. They both just get drunk together. Like, yeah, bro. Like, none of us could ever tame Buffy. Like,
Sometimes I envy you so much it chokes me. And sometimes I think I got the better deal. To be that close to her and not have her.
I kind of like this scene a lot between the two of them.
No, you got the better deal.
I'm the lucky guy. I'm the guy.
I like this scene. I mean, the thing about this, from like a perspective beyond just what is literally happening on screen, is that it kind of is as if Riley had cheated on her. That's why it feels like this.
She in there? She's training. She has mind clearing out. I have a minute alone with her.
Maybe we can go home and,
Actually, I've got some stuff to take care of.
Ooh, what is it?
We need to talk.
Not ready to talk to you yet.
Too bad.
Unless you want to fight.
So let's fight. We need to have this out, Buffy.
What were you thinking? How long have you been lying to me? Nothing you say right now is going to make this better.
I realize that. I don't expect... I just need you to hear me out. I think when this thing started, it was just some stupid, immature game. I wanted to even the score after you let Dracula bite you.
I did not let Dracula...
I know. On some level, I know that. But I was still spun. I wanted to know what you felt. I wanted to know why Dracula and Angel have so much power over you.
You so don't get it.
I wanted to get you.
So this is my fault? Hey, gee, Buffy's so mysterious. I think I'll go out and almost die. I think I'll go and let some other...
This isn't your fault. It's mine. And I feel like hell for what I've put you through. But it's just these girls.
Vampires. Killers.
They made me feel something, Buffy. Something I didn't even know I was missing until...
I can't hear this.
You need to hear this.
Fine. Tell me about your whores. Tell me what on earth they were giving you that I can't.
They needed me.
They needed your money. Wasn't about you.
No. On some basic level, it was about me. My blood, my body. When they bit me, it was beyond passion. They wanted to devour me. All of me. It wasn't real. I know, it was just physical. But the fact that I craved it, that I kept going back.
To realization that you don't have this.
I feel like they had such hunger for me.
And I don't make you feel that way? How on earth can you compare me to that? How can you tell me you understand what those vampires are feeling? You weren't a passion to them. You were a snack. A willing, idiotic snack.
No, I know exactly what they feel when they bite me because I feel it every time we're together. It's like the whole world falls away. And all there is you.
And you think that I don't feel the same way about you? How dare you tell me what I feel?
You keep me at a distance, Buffy. You didn't even call me when your mom went into the hospital.
Sorry that I couldn't take care of you when I thought that my mother was dying.
It's about me taking care of you. It's about letting me in. So you don't have to be on top of everything all the time.
But I do. That's part of what being a Slayer is. And that's what this is really about, isn't it? You can't handle the fact that I'm stronger than you.
It's hard sometimes, yeah, but that's not it.
Then what? What else do you want from me, Riley? I've given you everything that I have. I've given you my heart, my body, and soul.
You say that, but I don't feel it. I just don't feel it.
Well, whose fault is that? This is it. This is me. This is the package. And if it's so deficient that you need to get your kicks elsewhere, then we really have a problem.
Just kind of don't really want to say anything. I just kind of want to let the scene go.
Military. Just deep undercover.
Are you going?
I don't know. If we can't work this out.
Then what?
I think he doesn't have
Goodbye?
anything to latch us onto him here, so just go.
You are unbelievable. You're giving me an ultimatum?
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You expect me to get over it now or you're gone?
I don't, Buffy. That's not
No,
what
I
meant.
have heard enough. I will not take the blame for this.
I'm not asking you to.
Let go of
She's
me.
gonna.
You'll hit me?
Yeah, she's going to.
Come on, do it.
Straight up.
My way.
I'm serious, Buffy. Hit me. Hit me. I'm leaving, Buffy. Unless you give me a reason to stay. I'm leaving tonight.
Alright. Okay. Is Spike just gonna slide on Buffy's DMs now? Oh no, it's the other vampires. Okay.
The pyro act was a bad idea, Slayer.
Why, you guys don't have any other house you can take over?
Don't do this. Not now.
I'm actually worried about her for this one specific fight. Okay. That's the one. Yeah.
So, how'd that work out for you? Make you feel better? I thought you might need to talk. Then I saw this skirmish happen. I was gonna lend a hand, but I noticed you grew a few extra ones.
Go home, Xander.
Something's up. You're acting like a crazy person.
He's standing up. He's actually worried about her. He's trying to reach out. He's not the best at it, but he's trying.
Take this for instance. You don't want a deal, so you hide?
Just leave me alone, Xander. You have no idea what's going on.
Good. So you and Riley aren't imploding? It doesn't take a genius. What I can't figure out is how you never saw it coming.
Who told you?
Nobody told me anything, Buffy. It was right in front of my Xander face.
He lied to me. He ran around behind my back and almost got himself killed. And now he tells me that he's leaving with some covert military operation at midnight unless I convince him not to.
You gonna let him go?
It's not my decision to make.
It literally
Why? It's
is.
not fair.
Who cares if it's fair? In about 20 minutes, Riley's gonna disappear. Maybe forever, unless
He's
you
gonna-
do something to stop him.
What am I supposed to do? Beg him to stay?
Why wouldn't you?
Yes.
To keep Riley here,
I don't even know who he is anymore. I thought he was dependable.
Dependable. What is he, State Farm? I think you mean convenient. I think he took it for granted that he was gonna show up when you wanted him to and take off when you didn't.
Look who's talking. Look who has Anya following him around like a lovesick puppy.
Oh boy, is this not about me.
Is she more than a convenience? Because that would probably be a surprise.
You got burned with Angel, and then Riley shows up.
I know the story, Xander.
But you missed the point. You shut down, Buffy. And you've been treating Riley like the rebound guy, when he's the one that comes along once in a lifetime. He's never held back with you. He's risked everything. And you're about to let him fly because you don't like ultimatums? If he's not the guy, if what he needs from you just isn't there, let him go. Break his heart and make it a clean break. But if you really think you can love this guy, I'm talking scary, messy, no emotions barred need. If you're ready for that, think about what you're about to lose.
Xander.
Run.
That was really good from Sander. That was like fantastic. That was like incredible. I think he's gonna go. I think she's not gonna make it in time. I think he's just gonna be gone. Nope. That was a good shot. That shot from the helicopter. Alright. Goodbye to Riley. I do like having that, a full episode dedicated to this. Feels important, because it is important. To her it is very important. Well, goodbye. She's gonna go die somewhere in Belize.
I gotta say something, because I don't think I've made it clear. I'm in love with you. Powerfully, painfully in love. The things you do, the way you think, the way you move, I get excited every time I'm about to see you. You make me feel like I've never felt before in my life. Like a man. I just thought you might want to know.
It's really cool that we go from Buffy and Riley's just completely falling apart to Xander essentially applying his own advice on himself. It's not that he wasn't before, but he's just reinstating it just to ensure that Anya knows. It's very good. Goodbye forever, Riley. Yeah. In memory of DC Gustav. Who's that? Who's that? Okay, it seems like he was someone working in art direction and props. It wasn't someone I should know about, but it was someone that was behind the scenes, so rest in peace to him, to Mr. Gustafsson. That's it for this episode. There is a lot to say. Okay, we had the Riley episode finally. And like, for those of you who maybe haven't been keeping track with what I've been saying, but like, ever since fucking season 4, I was like, Riley is not gonna last. I never had a feeling that Riley was the type of character that was gonna stick around for the entirety of Buffy. I didn't even think he was gonna make it to the end of the season, if I'm gonna be real with you. So when he did make it, I was surprised. And now season 5 started, and we start exploring this idea of Buffy and Riley falling apart a little bit, and just exploring the relationship and how much, like, all of the shortcomings that are happening in the relationship itself. So whenever that started happening, I was like, okay, it is inevitable that he's just gonna leave the show. It is inevitable that these two are gonna split. Even during that entire storyline with Buffy's mom, with Joyce, which we'll return to, I'm sure. I don't think I am ready to call it that she's safe now. I don't think that I am. But focusing on Riley, because we have to. This is the Riley episode. We gotta talk about this and the relationship. When that started happening in season 5, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, this is the way in which we tell a story of how they drift apart. It is not just like a randomly, oh, he died. It is something more like, we get, this is gonna be important for Buffy's development and just seeing a relationship. And it's a relationship that ends not because of like the whole vampire bullshit that was happening with Angel. It is falling apart because of the way that they saw each other. And this is an issue that we've been seeing for a while now. Even all the way back to season 4, there was that episode with fucking Angel in it. There were some warning signs from Riley, but then there was also warning signs from Buffy, and you can mostly see them here in season 5. Because here in season 5, Buffy starts acting very like driven and dedicated to literally everything that isn't Riley. And it feels like there is like some kind of reason as to why that might be the case. But after the thing with Donna's reveal, like it feels like that stops being the case so much, and instead we start to see it from Riley's perspective, which we had already been seeing it before, but we start to essentially feel from Riley's perspective how he feels like he's unwanted, and I really like that I managed to pin it down like exactly last episode, because during last episode's reaction, when he was getting drank by the vampire, I was thinking to myself, and I said it out loud, that on some level what he's doing is that he's going to go see them because he feels like they need him. It feels like he's wanted, and that's not something he feels like when he's around Buffy. And if you're just looking at them, you can tell that that's the case. And there's a lot of things that are told to us or are showed to us that just tell you that that is the case. Like, even in this episode, something that really makes Riley go have himself get drank is that he's hanging out with Buffy, and then he was like, "You didn't even cry, not even once, you're so strong." And Buffy was like, "No, I did cry." And it's this thing where she didn't rely on Riley to be there when she cried. And on some level, the thing is that, like, it's not that she doesn't trust him, it's that she doesn't need him. And that's the point. Riley wants to feel like somebody really needs him, like somebody really wants him, and he doesn't get that impression from Buffy, and that is actually the truth. That is the case. And, like, I understand that from Riley's, like, okay, let's talk about Riley, not Buffy. Let's talk about him and whether his actions are okay or aren't okay or whatever. Riley is essentially doing this thing where the relationship is falling apart and he feels like he's not getting what he wants out of the relationship. He still loves Buffy, but he doesn't feel like Buffy loves him the way that he does. And this is actually, like, I mentioned earlier how on some level Buffy seeing him getting dragged by a random vampire, like they make it look like it's like vampire drugs, but what actually it is kind of like is him cheating on her. And then later on they explicitly say that she's like, oh, like one of those whores or whatever. Like, of course Buffy feels betrayed by this. And just to be clear, when I say that it's like cheating on her or whatever, it's like, how could you compare, you know, someone having sex or a relationship with someone that isn't you to just a random vampire sucking your blood? Like, there's nothing there. And it's like, I know that those two are not equal in a literal sense, but they are equal on like the essence of it, right? There is a sexual, like, romantic, like passionate, like, connotation to vampires, like from their origin as a concept. So it's not that it doesn't make the most amount of sense, you know? It's like, oh, this pale, beautiful, ageless creatures of the night that show up and they kidnap me and bite my neck and suck my blood, and oh, they need me. And it's like, of course, like the origin of vampires is kind of that, not as a mythos, but in like literature, that's the niche that they fulfill. That's the reason why vampires are hot, generally speaking, right? Like, that's their whole deal. So grabbing that, the concept of vampires being like kind of like a representation of lust, that then you can grab that, apply that to Riley and say he's cheating on Buffy, and now it makes sense. It is not literally what's happening, but it's kind of like conceptually what's happening. So, is that just like an awful fucking thing for him to have done? I mean, because he's not literally cheating on her, it's not as bad, but it is bad for him to do that. And you can see, like, and Buffy gets upset also because she mentions, like, you could have died, you know? It's like, you're doing this and you could have killed yourself doing this. So it is, like, it's weird because it's like a weird mixture between cheating and also taking drugs, like doing heroin. But what Riley's doing and what he explains he was doing is that he was getting something that he didn't get from Buffy, and that was feeling like he was needed, feeling like he was wanted, like he was desired. Buffy never gave him that feeling. And unfortunately for us, that is true. Like, when we look at what the relationship has been the truth. And I like, Xander was the fucking MVP of this episode. It was so good. That scene when he talked to Buffy, he confronted her, he challenged her, and he laid it out for her to understand. And I love that he said some of the things that I have been saying for a while now. is that if I know something about Buffy Summers, is that like she wants a relationship, she's thinking about boys, that relationship falls apart, she instantly jumps to a different boy. She just instantly uses that. And when I look at Riley, that's the only impression I've ever felt. I mean, the whole situation with Angel was a lot of drama because for a lot of reasons. Then we went into Parker, and then we went into Riley, like immediately. Like Angel left in the final episode of season 3. Parker was like episode 3 of season 4, and Riley was like episode 8 after the Parker saga. So like, and there's this thing that Buffy mentioned that she was saying like, well, like you want more, like I don't know what to tell you, like this is it, like this is all that I am, like I'm giving you everything that I have right now on me. And it's this thing where like like she does have a point in the sense that like if she feels like she's unable to give people that level of like need and passion, then maybe she's just not that, maybe she's just not the kind of person that can do that. But then that kind of falls apart because we have seen that she has that with Angel. So because of that, we know that that is not true. So Riley's right in that respect. The fact that she just doesn't give him that. And whether, like, is it okay for him to have gone and got involved with the vampire drug horse? No. Well, on some level, it is his own life, so he can do whatever he wants with him. Like, if he dies, he dies. Like, who gives a shit? But, like, he did that as a replacement for Buffy instead of talking with Buffy. And maybe it's because he just didn't realize it, right? Up until that moment when Buffy is telling me, like, what is it that they gave you? And he was like, they needed me. Like, maybe up until that moment, he wasn't able to put it together. What was the thing that he was after? Because again, I feel like maybe even at this point it's difficult to remember, but it's like these people are younger than me. Like these people are like in their like early 20s or something. So like it wouldn't make sense for them to just not figure that out. But in that moment, Riley figured it out or said it out loud. And it's the thing of like, I feel like this was a conversation that he should have had with Buffy before. Like the mature thing to do is for him to bring this up to Buffy, given there was no place for him to do that because Buffy's mom was dying. And then in the celebration night, then he's not gonna like bring down the mood. So maybe it's just the fact that like he didn't have the time for it. But like at the same time, I never got the impression that Riley wanted to talk about it, right? Up until that scene when he actually comes in and he talks about it, up until that scene, I never got the impression that Riley wanted to. Like it felt like he tried as much as he could to get Buffy to show him that she needed him. And every time he tried, she didn't respond. She just actively didn't. So because of that, he gets involved with the vampire junk horse. I don't know what to call them. I'm sorry. Like realistically, the mature thing to do is to just talk to her, talk to your partner and say, hey, I don't want to say this, and this is kind of a bad conversation topic, and it sucks, but I have to say it. I feel like you are not giving me what I need out of this relationship, and it hurts me to say that, but like I need you to know that because I am in pain, and you're either gonna try better, to do better, to show me and give me what I need, or I am going to leave and go find happiness somewhere else. Like that's the mature thing to do. That's the adult thing to do. He didn't really do that up until he had to. Up until that moment where like they have that full fight and he gives her the ultimatum or whatever. Like it's like he's not giving her an ultimatum because like, you know, he's being vengeful or whatever. He's giving her an ultimatum because they were like, okay, Riley, this is like, we're giving you a way to move on with your life and you have a deadline and it's like tomorrow. It's like a very tight deadline. And he's like, I kind of do feel like what am I going to do? Am I going to get stuck with Buffy who doesn't love me and hate myself forever? Or am I just going to take the chance to move on with my life? He took it. And like, I can't even blame him for that. He just took the chance to just move on, go do something else. Just stop thinking about Buffy, stop freaking out about Buffy, stop hurting about Buffy. And essentially, like, the thing is that what Riley was saying, he was actually coming from a place that is very understanding from his perspective, which is he's just being like I have issues with this relationship and I need you to understand that like I feel like my needs are not being met. And if my needs are not being met, then why am I here? I should just go. And I am telling you this because if you want me to stay, I'll stay. But I need you to want me to. And like that was like that's the thing that really like got me. Like whenever Buffy and Xander were having their discussion, is that like Buffy just went, what am I supposed to do then? Beg to him to stay? And I like Xander look at her and I look at her, I was like, yes, like that's the like that. And that's where I was like, she just straight up didn't listen to him. Like she didn't listen to him, or she didn't process what he said. Like she didn't understand what Riley told her. Riley just told her in plain English, I want to feel needed. And I feel like you don't show me that you need me. And then Buffy was like, what am I supposed to do? Beg him? And it's like, he literally told you that that's what he wants. Not just wants, that's what he needs. He needs to feel like you want him. He doesn't feel that way. And here you are saying that you don't want to do that. And like, it's like almost like Buffy saw that as a fight. Which takes me back to something that I said a couple episodes ago with Spike. Because now I'm sitting here thinking like Buffy saw that argument as a fight that she had to win. And then when Xander just told her, like, whenever it was more than just that, and even Xander just called her out on everything, and Xander said all the perfect words, like passing charisma check, just full persuasion, he rolling high. And eventually Buffy got it. Like, Buffy understood. Because Xander just told her just straight up, like, from what, like, I've been looking at it. And I can tell, like, I've been seeing that this was falling apart. I noticed. We all noticed. But you're the only one that didn't. And it's like, we noticed because you were kind of just using him as a rebound guy because you were still hung up about Angel. And now it's been a while. And it kind of feels like he really doesn't have a purpose anymore, because you're kind of technically in a relationship with him, but there's no passion. There's no one need. And I like what Sandra said. It was like, you know, a relationship, like all the messiness that comes from a relationship, all the emotion that comes from a relationship. It felt like Buffy didn't want to have that with him. She never opened up to him. And that's something that Riley just straight up told to her multiple times. And she never really made an effort to change that. At the same time, though, her mom was dying. And the situation with Dawn is another kind of worms. So I can't be fully critical of Buffy for, like, not being a good enough partner when her life is just falling apart. But that's kind of the point that they were trying to make, is that if your life is falling apart, but you have, like, a loving partner that really deeply cares about you and is willing to do anything for you, and you feel like you trust them and you want them and they are a part of you, then that person should be able to share the load with you. However, Buffy never allowed Riley to do that. And Riley just told her, like, you should have called me or whatever. Like, and like whenever she mentioned, like, you know, I did cry a lot, but she didn't cry with him. And Riley's, like, whole purpose as a partner, because it's the purpose of every partner, is to be there for the person you love. And not just be there, but also be part of it. And Riley never was. So despite the fact that, you know, Buffy's mom is dying, the whole Dawn situation is happening, all of it is a lot of things happening all at once, Buffy never at any point called for Riley to be there for her. She was just like, I'm gonna take it all by myself. And then after all of that was over, then she went and fucked Riley. And it was the same where, like, I said it, like, the person you love is not the person that is there just to, like, celebrate and bang whenever everything's good. The person you love is the person that's right there for you during all of the bad shit, all of the difficult times, so that they can be there with you so you don't have to do it alone. But Buffy never needed him for that, so she never did that. And something I do want to, I'm going to retrace a little bit here, because I feel like episodes ago, and I've been doing this for a while now, is that Riley has been being selfish during when Buffy's mom is dying and everything with Joyce is happening in the hospital. Like Riley comes in and comes back in and he's like, it was the scene where he came back with a turtleneck because he didn't want Buffy to see that he was bitten. Came back with a turtleneck and he was like hugging her or whatever, and he did tell her and he did say like, you can cry, it's okay. And then Buffy was like, no, I don't have time for that or whatever. And then there were like Joyce or Dawn or whatever called for Buffy, and then Buffy just left Riley alone just in the hallway. And it was this thing where like, that is Riley offering to be there for her and she actively refusing that and instead leaving him alone and just going back to deal with whatever she had to deal with by herself. And whenever that happened, I was critical of Riley for being selfish in that moment because he was being selfish. He was like, like, I'm here, pay attention to me. But at the same time, he's not so selfish and irrational to just yell at Buffy like, like, give me attention instead of giving attention to your dead mom or whatever. Like, he's not that much of an asshole, but he is being selfish in the sense that he's not worried about Buffy's, like, he's not worried about Joyce and what Buffy's feeling. He's worried about himself and the fact that he feels like he's not needed. So in that sense, he is being selfish. But at the same time, he's not wrong in the sense that the relationship just doesn't work. In the sense that he's not being given or allowed in, which is what he says, which is what you are supposed to do in a relationship that is healthy. So it was selfish of him to just want Buffy to pay attention to him while her mom was dying. That is very much a selfish thing he's doing. But he's also not wrong in wanting Buffy to do that, because that is what they're supposed to do. If they're in love in a relationship and they care about each other, then that should be a given. But Buffy doesn't do that. And Riley's never really asks for that, which is also understandable. Like I said, that the mature thing would be for him to just say it, but he didn't say it. And part of the reason why he doesn't say it is because it doesn't feel like you deserve that kind of treatment. Like, you want to tell your partner, like, oh, you're not good enough. Like, that sounds so awful. That sounds so selfish. That sounds like you're, like, because you also don't want to piss off the person you love. Like, you want the person you love to realize that by themselves. You want that person to just want you, not because you told them to, but because they want you. So it's kind of pointless for him to bring it up, and he should bring it up, but I'm just explaining, I'm just giving reasons as to why he didn't, right? The situation was difficult in Buffy's family, and it's kind of pointless to do so anyway. He's just gonna get sucked off by vampires. And he did mention that at first he was just kind of playful because it was a curiosity thing, but then he got addicted to it because he got the rush he needed of feeling needed, which again Buffy could never give. So I guess ultimately what I gotta say is both of these people are fucked up and they should have been together. Like, that's kind of how I feel. Like, even there is a sadness to that final like scene where Buffy wants to try and have Riley stop and stay, but I don't know if Buffy could have been good enough for him if he had stayed. Like, maybe she would have, like, because like she feels like she starts crying whenever Sandra tells her that and she realizes it, and that hints towards the fact that, she cares about him, because it's not like she doesn't care, it's that she doesn't need him, she doesn't want him. So Sandra tells her this, she starts crying, and then she runs. Maybe she could have changed. Maybe Buffy would have been able to change and to show that she needs him and to change as a person and be a better partner. That could have happened. But there's also a situation where maybe that wouldn't happen because Riley was simply not that person for Buffy. So I kind of don't really feel sad about Riley just leaving. Well, first of all, because I expected him to leave the show. Second, because everything I've seen about this relationship has been dysfunctional. Third, because I don't know if the relationship could be healthy. Like, even if they both understand this now, if they could change and adapt for the better, I don't know if that could happen. Maybe it could have. Like, maybe that is the tragedy of it all, is the fact that Buffy could have changed. Buffy could have adapted, and even Riley maybe a little bit. He could have been a little bit more vocal about his needs and not like tried to be secretive about what he feels, and instead expressing a little bit, and like sneakily acting on his feelings instead of focusing on something that's maybe more important. Because that's kind of the other thing, is that like Riley having those small moments where he's going and he's trying to have Buffy cry on him or whatever, like that, those are cries for help from Riley. Is Riley desperately trying, attempting to get Buffy to show him what he wants to see, and she doesn't. And that's Riley, like, even though it's selfish, it is like what is he supposed to do? Like, he's unhappy, he wants to feel loved, like that's the only thing he cares about at this moment. And it's like, of course, it's not like he doesn't give a shit about Joyce, but it's more like this thing of, I have this like visceral reaction of wanting, like, I want to feel the bare minimum, like I am someone that's also important in your life, and he doesn't get that. And if he got it maybe a little bit, then he wouldn't have been so selfish. Like that's the thing. It's like you can say that is a selfish thing to do, and it is. But the reason why it happens is something that makes absolute sense, and like I can't be upset at him for ended up feeling like this, because it's kind of a dickish move for him to have acted the way that he acted several times here throughout the season. But it's not because he's an asshole. It's because he's in pain, and he is kind of too nice to say I am in pain, and instead he just bottles it up, and then it all comes out in some outburst or in some wild action, such as getting involved with a vampire junk horse. Okay, hello, hi, sorry, I got into a sneezing fit, and then I got really ill, and then I wanted to die, and now it's been like a full day. So I'm recording this a full day after the segment you just saw. But let's keep talking about this episode. I talk extensively about Riley and Buffy, so a lot of it I might not remember what I already said. But something that I was thinking about is how much I enjoyed how flawed this situation is coming from both of these characters. The one part that I'm not like fully like sure about is this moment where Xander is like, you know, like, he's the type of guy that comes in once in a lifetime, you know, he was so good, he did everything he could for you. And it's like, on some level I think he's right, but on another level I think that there is this like weird glorification of Riley without actually acknowledging the fact that he was being a little bit really self-centered throughout this past couple episodes. But then at the same time, that's not really the topic of conversation right now. And for Buffy, it is like explicitly addressed to us how flawed it is that how unhealthy she let the relationship become. Okay, whenever I think about it, I'm thinking about it as like, who was the person that made the relationship unhealthy? Was it Riley or was it Buffy? And it is a relationship, so part of the blame has to fall on both. But at least this season, which is when honestly you see a lot of the relationship develop, like I feel like I would have to maybe rewatch season 4 and rewatch some of the scenes with Buffy and Riley and try to like apply those scenes into this context to see whether or not like who was doing what during those instances. Because I feel like in season 4 I was mostly okay with what the relationship was. Like I didn't really see much fault, just a little bit of fault, but not much of it, and it was mostly coming from like Riley. And then the fact that Buffy just jumps from guy to guy, and that's one of the things that I pointed out a lot before. But definitely in season 5 it feels like Riley was trying to have a normal relationship with Buffy and she didn't want to. And it's interesting because it's not like she knew that that's what she was doing like consciously. It's more like she was incredibly distant and never, well, like Riley says, never allowed him in. And there's a lot of scenes in this season where Riley is telling Buffy something and it's like, let's do this or let's do that or whatever. And then Buffy's like, nah, I don't want it. And then just like, that's the end of the conversation. Or like whenever Riley, like, I don't know, there's like scenes where Riley is like driving Buffy somewhere or they're just like talking or whatever. And Buffy's just kind of looking out the window and just thinking about like her Slayer shit or whatever. And Riley is trying to engage in conversation with her about it. And then she just doesn't really engage with him on that conversation. She just kind of keeps thinking to herself. And that is precisely what we're talking about here, is the idea that she's not sharing her life with him. And like, because I feel like maybe there's people who are watching this episode and maybe there is a fucking fandom war in the comment section. I don't know how people feel about this relationship or any of these specific characters. I do remember that some people in season 4 were commenting like they didn't like Riley, you know? So maybe people just don't like this beat and him and what he did. But it is, I think that what we see in season 5, I think it is undeniable that Riley was the one trying to keep the relationship afloat. He is the number one person that wanted a relationship, and Buffy, it felt like she didn't. Like, there's too many scenes to grab where that shit happens, and they're minor scenes. They're not scenes that like you single out and you will like, oh, this is the reason why, you know, they had a fight or they're splitting or he just disappeared or whatever. But they are a bunch of scenes that add up, and eventually they end up culminating in what ended up happening because of the simple reason of the fact that Riley didn't feel like Buffy wanted him, like Buffy needed him. And like the thing is that, you know, you can look at that and say like, well, she doesn't have to do that, right? Well, like, of course she doesn't have to do that, but you're in a relationship. Like, that's the thing, is that like, if you didn't want to be in the relationship to begin with, which is kind of what it sounds like you want to do, then just simply don't be in the relationship. Which is what Xander tells her. And that's the part that I like, is that Xander is like, listen, like, if you don't want to have this with this guy, if you feel like you don't love him, if you like, you can't like need him or want him in the way that you want him, in the way that he wants you to do, then sure, just break up with him, make it a clean break. That's what he said. It's like, sure, move on with your life. Like, you don't have to do this. A relationship is something that 2 or more people have to build together. And if Buffy isn't willing, then sure, no relationship will happen. But the idea that they were in a relationship, but Buffy wasn't willing, that's where the problem arises. And the fact that she would get upset with him over the fact that he said that she didn't is... Like, I understand that the situation was difficult, especially because it has to be the most dramatic thing to ever happen, right? It has to be like, you found him with a vampire junk whore. I mean, I'm coining that term just because it sounds funny, but like, you found him in that situation, and then you had to, you know, get really angry, and then, you know, emotions are high, and Riley has to live tonight, you know, so he has to drop an ultimatum or whatever. And it's like, of course, because of the just dramatic situation that we're placing this character in, just because it makes for better storytelling, of course it's going to be difficult to have like a normal, real, mature conversation here with Buffy, and Buffy would just get upset because she was already kind of upset. So like, I understand that. I'm not putting that on her. But it is a conversation that they needed to have. And it is a conversation that Buffy just, her response was just like, fuck you, die. I like what Xander, like, I really like that Xander scene. But what I like about it is that Xander, what he did is not that he essentially came in here and he was like, Riley was the coolest guy. He kind of did that, but what he did more than anything is that he made Buffy realize that she cared when Buffy, and this is a trait of Buffy that I feel is something that we can like look at, and it has happened before. This is just something that makes sense about the character, is that I feel like Buffy is incredibly stubborn, and at the same time I feel like Buffy is, how do I put this? Like, Buffy has to fight over things for some reason sometimes, even though it shouldn't be a fight. It is a fight, it is a competition, it is some kind of altercation. So whenever they have, like, what was happening with Riley is that Riley wanted to have a constructive, productive conversation, and Buffy was like, oh, you're trying to fight me, right? Like, Buffy being like, oh, why, so you're giving me an ultimatum? Unless I do this for you, then you're gonna... And it's like, it's this thing where like, oh, I have to comply or you win, and it's like, oh, so I can't. It's like, fuck you, I'm not playing your game. And then Riley's like, that wasn't a game. That was me telling you what the relationship needed to do. Like, that was me trying to make things better. And Buffy just rejected that and just said, fuck you, and left. Because Buffy saw it as someone trying to pick a fight with her, weirdly. And it's like, if you approach your relationships, any relationship, that way, then I'm sorry, but that's just very immature and not gonna work out for you. And of course, I know that Buffy was angry at the moment, and she had every right to be. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think that this is a trait of Buffy. Her stubbornness is a trait of Buffy that has shown up before, and it is starting to become a character flaw, I feel like. And what I like about what Sandor did is that he made Buffy realize that, right? He wasn't telling Buffy like, oh, Riley was super cool, you should love him. No, he was saying, if you love him, right? Like, he was saying, like, he was trying to make Buffy realize that she cared. Because the thing is that it's not that Buffy's inhuman. Like, Buffy cares. But the thing is that when you're angry, you're hot-headed, you're stubborn, you can't tell people to just go fuck themselves and then just walk away. But what's gonna happen is that, like, maybe 2 days later, you're gonna start to really hate yourself for that. You're gonna have to start really regretting those decisions. So, like, what Sandor is doing is confronting Buffy. He's like doing an intervention of Buffy. He's like, he's trying to make her realize the reality of the situation, and not just that, but also make Buffy realize that, like, it's not that you don't care about him, or rather, he's trying to put her in the spot where she has to realize whether she loves him or not. And that's Buffy's choice. Like, that is up to Buffy's feelings. He's not saying Riley's awesome, you should love him. He's saying, from what I've seen, Riley has been really good for you, and I don't know if you have given him the same thing back. And if you don't want that, then sure, that's fine. But I'm trying to make you realize that it's not the fight that you think it is. I really like that scene. I just rewatched it, by the way. Like, I just rewatched that scene again because I needed to remind myself. So don't worry, it's not been a full day since I watched that scene. But what I liked about that scene is that Buffy kept saying, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't do anything about it. And, like, the thing is that she literally is the only person that can do something about it. Like, she's, like, pushing the blame a little bit. Which is ironic because earlier she's telling Riley like, oh, you're putting this on me? Like, as if it wasn't your fault that you're doing all of this. And it's like Buffy's refusing to, like, engage with the topic at hand and instead focusing on, like, well, what happened last night. And it's like, again, she's angry, I get that. But that's why Sandor is so good here. It's because, like, and I don't know how much, well, he saw Buffy being really angry and not herself. And I feel like these characters have seen that before. So it would make sense for him to be like, you know, like, I think that Buffy needs an intervention right now because when she gets in this kind of mood, I feel like that's when she makes all of the bad choices in her life. So he's actively trying to help her by directly confronting her, which is, I think that may be the best Sandor moment in the show, like, so far. I love the entirety of the Seppo episode. That episode was fucking fire. But I think that this might be the best episode, like, the best Sandor moment in the show. I'm thinking about it and I'm like, this, like, it's such a weird whenever a friend would do something like that for you. Because, okay, something that maybe some viewers might not realize about what that scene was is that they could see that scene as Sandor vouching for Riley, just like, you should go give that guy a shot, you know, even though he went and got himself, like, bitten by vampire hunk junkies. It was Sandor trying to make Buffy realize what is actually happening in their relationship, and he is essentially putting the ball in her court in the sense of, do you want him to be around or not? That is your decision to make. Do you want to or do you not? And then Buffy ends up choosing that she actually does. And that's why that's a good thing, is because Sandor is essentially, like, is Xander is grabbing Buffy, like pulling her down from her like anger, from her stubbornness, and just being like, "Do you feel that way truly? What do you want to do? Stop being angry. Stop being stubborn. Stop seeing this as like a fight. What do you want? Think about it." And then she ends up choosing that she actually does want him to stay. And like that is a realization that only came about because he was there to make her realize that. And and the reason why that's good is because he's not telling Buffy Riley was awesome, go after him. He was telling her, I think I know you, Buffy Summers, like as a friend. I think I understand you. And from what I see, from what I can tell, you are really destroying yourself. You're really just imploding your own life here. Is it fully her fault? No. But in that situation that Buffy is in that night, she is the one with the power to make a decision. And that's what I'm saying, is that Riley told her, this is what I need. These are my needs. This is what I want out of the relationship. And this is the reason why I was feeling like shit. And hey, I was feeling like shit, by the way. Like, I didn't tell you because I felt like it would be selfish to do so. And again, I mentioned yesterday that like when you want someone to want you, when you want someone to need you, you don't want to tell them that because then that's fake. You want them to show that to you by themselves because it's something that cannot be fabricated. And when you ask for it, it feels like it's fabricated. And there's many scenes throughout the season where Riley is trying to have Buffy like acknowledge him or let him in. For Riley to just feel wanted or needed in any way, and Buffy didn't ever do that. Actively went against it, in fact. And the thing is that when those scenes happen, yeah, it was so center of Riley to do that, but at the same time, they did give him a conclusive, definitive answer. He was selfishly trying to seek out the thing that he needed, and he didn't get it. Maybe it wasn't cool for him to have like just been thinking about himself and how he was feeling while Joyce was dying of brain cancer, but at the same time, those things did give him an answer and made him realize that like, yeah, I don't think she really needs me. Not in the way I need her, and I would like to feel like somebody actually would need me like that. So he brings up to her, she doesn't want to engage with that. Cool, we're done. I feel like I'm going in circles now because I also don't know how much I said yesterday already. So maybe I should just stop with that. But I really like Xander's role here in this episode. It was incredible. It was fucking fantastic. Like, I can't believe how good it was. Again, on Buffy's like agency, like I like that she kept saying like, you know, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't do anything about this. And it's like, you're literally the only person that can, because Riley told you that all she needs is to feel like you want him. And then you didn't do that. And it's like, of course you don't have to do that. But then at that point, the relationship should just be over. Just because both people's like needs are not being met. So like feeling bad over the relationship while simultaneously refusing to do the thing that you need to do for the relationship is not what you're supposed to do. And again, it just boils down to when Buffy was like, what am I supposed to do, beg? Like, she said that as like, that is something that should never happen. And then Xander was like, yes, because literally that's what he told you that he needs. He needs to feel like you want him, like you care about him, like you need him, and you've never given him that. And if you like beg for him to stay, he would have been like, oh, she actually does want me around. She actually does need me. But she didn't do that. Instead, she felt offended that he wanted that. It's like this weird thing of like, why is she seeing that as like a challenge? Like, the reason why you would feel offended by that is if you saw it as like an act of submission and not just like expressing like your real feelings. So it's like, she doesn't want to say that because one, it expresses her real feelings, which points at the fact that she doesn't feel comfortable showing her true emotions near Riley, which is a bad thing in a relationship, by the way. Red flag. Or that she sees it as a form of submission, which is a really weird angle to take, but it's one that I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I guess it makes sense, because if we're gonna go on the idea that the Slayer is all about the hunt and the fight or whatever, is this like very primal thing, then I guess she would see it that way. You know, she sees everything as a fight. And I wonder if that is the thread we're going to follow up upon this season, because I feel like this season has shown a lot of that. And I'm thinking that maybe Buffy's going to like, I don't know if devolve is the right word to use, but it feels like maybe Buffy's going to go through these a bunch of situations where it's going to be clear that her, like, the fact that she approaches everything as if she was the Slayer rather than as if she was just a person is something that is going to start biting her in the ass. Like, she approaches relationships as fights. She approaches everything as a conflict that she needs to, like, come out on top, which is why she's so stubborn. And, like, if that happens, then, like, I mean, that would be just very interesting for Buffy as a character, because if we would be having such a, like, flawed main character. Something I will say is that I don't know how much sympathy I have for Buffy here, because Buffy's starting to remind me a lot of my sister, which is not necessarily a good thing. I really like the scene between Riley and Spike. I like that this like weird moment of like understanding between the two of them, where like Spike is kind of just being a shit to Riley, but then he just tells Riley like what Riley already knows, which is like, you know, like, you're never gonna be good enough for her. And like it's this weird thing where like Riley feels, and on some level Spike also feels, they are not good enough for her. But then on the other side of the story, we get Sandra telling Buffy that she is being not good enough for Riley on some level. Like, she's the one at fault in the relationship. So it's just a weird thing where like both sides are seeing themselves as like not good enough, which is also why Riley wanted to go out and be a hero and like kill all those vampires by himself and whatever. Like, he wanted to feel like he was good enough for Buffy, like he could still fight, like he could still do something. Which is the thing where like he's measuring himself to Buffy so he can feel like her equal, so then she may like love him or whatever. Because the only person that she could fall in love with would be a superhero, is what he's thinking. So losing that was equivalent of losing Buffy, and he didn't want that, so he kept trying really hard to maintain that. So, like, he thought he wasn't good enough for her. But then she is the one that is also at fault here. So it's interesting how we get to see this both sides of how they differ, like, the difference in opinion of, like, who is at fault here. Spike role in the story is, like, so fun because, like, Riley asks, you think you got a shot with her? And Spike is like, no, I don't. But I feel I was gonna try, though. It's this thing of, like, they don't see themselves as good enough for Buffy, but they both still kind of want to try because they really like Buffy. like they are hopelessly in love with Buffy, and it's like, sure, like, I'm glad that they are, but like, I don't see what you would personally. Anyway, I guess to close off, I should just, I'm gonna say that like, ever since like halfway into season 4, I was like, Riley's not gonna make it to the end of the season, and then he did, and I was like, he's gonna die next episode. Like, I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. I was just like I just felt like Riley didn't really fit into the picture, into the dynamic. And then when season 5 starts going, I feel vindicated because Riley's storyline, like his character arc for the season, is that he feels like he doesn't fit anymore. That's true. Like, I feel like I was acknowledged when that became Riley's point as a character, and I feel like him living here makes absolute sense. In fact, I'm kind of baffled that it took this long. I feel like he's a character that should have left earlier, but I didn't mind him being around, so it's not like he was a problem. It's more like it felt like he was one person too many in the main cast. That's how I felt. That's how Riley felt. Because, like, when I think about, like, season 4 of Buffy was this weird thing where they're doing this story of, like, Buffy is going to college, and it's like, oh, dealing with college, you know, you're just starting to become an adult. Things are just a little bit more complicated than they used to be, and you have to take it a little bit more seriously than not at all. Because, like, you're just kind of fucking around while you're in high school, but now that you're in college, you have to kind of take a first step into actually giving a shit. you maybe have to figure out your own like living conditions on your own. You have to like there's a lot of responsibility being placed on you. So like that was kind of the storyline for season 4, and then they just fucking went into like the government and their secret military and their secret experiments and some shit. But then after season 4 is over, it feels like none of that like stayed. It felt like even the college setting, like we haven't done college at all during season 5. I think the only scene we got in college was when they are packing Buffy's stuff so she will move back home from college because she wants to be near her mom. Like, it feels like we have completely abandoned the fact that these characters go to college at all. It's just not a part of their lives anymore. We are more interested about telling stories about their interpersonal lives and their relationships than we are about just the anxiety of just stepping into adulthood as a teenager that is college. It's like, no, we're actually now just going and telling this like heavily dramatic story of these young adults. And it kind of doesn't matter that they're young adults. It does, but it matters less than it used to be before. Now they're just people that we're gonna put into situations. That's kind of what this is feeling like. So again, what I was thinking about is that season 4 feels like a thing that they tried, and I remember a lot of people told me like, oh, you know, I don't like season 4 that much. And it might be because of that, because season 4 was actually trying to be this very specific like story that is like placed in like as like a phase that you have in the coming of age story. Season 5 doesn't feel that way. Season 5 feels more like it's just a story. It's not necessarily one where we have teenagers trying to become adults. This is just a story of people and things are gonna happen to them. So because of that, it feels like season 4, like if we look back at it, it like almost doesn't connect to season 5 at all, like whatsoever. And there's only like 2 links to season 4. One of them is Tara and the other one is Riley. And I feel like if they look at season 4 and they go like, what is the thing that should stay? It's Tara. It's always Tara. It's 100% Tara. And Willow was already in a relationship before Tara showed up, like before they went into college. So Tara is kind of filling in the role that Oz already filled in. Anya was in season 3 and she had a role. It wasn't as big of a role as she has now, but she did show up and she did have a crush on Sander and she came back. And it was like, I really like Anya in that season and I really like Anya now. So Anya still also makes sense. So the only thing that really feels super out of place in the dynamic is Riley. Because like, what, is Riley filling in for Angel? He's not. Like, I guess that maybe the comparison that they do a lot of the time with Riley and Angel. I guess that's more on like a meta level because like, I feel like there's no point of comparison between Angel and Riley. But I feel like if we are to compare them, the only way that I feel like we could compare them is their role in the story as Buffy's boyfriend. And that doesn't work because Angel was like a force of his own. Like a character which was just sad boy Batman. You know, like sad boy, vampire, melancholic Batman with ton of baggage and regret, you know? Very dramatic. Riley doesn't have that. He's never had that. Riley's like Captain America without any of the interesting parts, right? Like Riley feels like he served a purpose for the season that he was in, which was season 4. But then after that's done, he kind of doesn't really have anything else going on for him anymore. So I feel like the only thing that's really out of place in season 5 is Riley. Because like he was really just there for his function in season 4. And season 4 is something that they're fully moving away from. So Riley has to go away. Like that just makes sense to me on paper. So yeah, this is the goodbye to Riley episode. I kind of liked it just because it was so messy. Because it really gave me this view into this character's flawed dynamics and relationships and the way that they would act. And I think that this might also be the episode that made Buffy the most flawed she's ever been. Which is something I really like. I really like when you make your main character just this like has so many flaws and you get to see the impact that they do have. And it's also good that they realize those flaws but like they realize it too late, you know, like the consequence still happens. So that's very good. All right, that's it for today. Maybe I don't know what else I can talk about. Oh, Joyce, I did not believe the show when Joyce didn't die. Like I was so ready for her to die. and I still kind of am. Because that's the thing, is that like we got some scenes with Joyce that really felt to me like she like, okay, what would be the point for Joyce to have had a brain tumor and then they just remove the tumor and she's okay now? Like the only reason with that, I guess, is that like Buffy felt like shit for a while. Like that really influenced her character, maybe. The fact that Buffy told Joyce that Dawn isn't real, but that's a very convoluted way of doing so. So I think I'm going back on my theory that I had last episode where I was like, if this is a supernatural induced tumor, which I think we know it is, because Gloria touched that guy and then that guy went crazy. And then that guy was like Joyce because he was a target for the Queller demon, which Joyce also was. So we have to assume that Gloria also touched Joyce like this, or did it some other way, but it was induced by her, by Gloria. And if that's the case, then we have to start questioning why the Queller demon, which I already did last episode, because I was like, the doctor summons the Queller demon to kill every person that was touched by Gloria. Why? He was asked about, like, why would he do that? Because they need to keep a low profile. And he was like, well, because I have to clean up after Gloria's mess up. So why would that be a mess? That to me tells me that the brain tumor, whatever, when you're touched by Gloria, that something will happen to you unless you just die. And death is something that would be preferable over whatever that might be, because it would be less conspicuous. So now I'm worried about Joyce on a different level. Now I'm worried about Joyce of like, what happens to someone that didn't die from the thing and the Queller beast, the Queller demon, because that hasn't happened before, to our knowledge. Or maybe it has, and that's Drusilla. We could do that, I guess. Drusilla showed up in Angel, by the way. Drusilla is just a character in Angel now. Alright, I think that might be it for this episode. Between this recording and previous recording, I recorded like easily an hour and a half, probably like an hour and 40 minutes of just like discussion. And it might be a lot of just the same points I'm repeating over and over. I was informed by the people on Patreon that people might yell at me on the YouTube comment section, which is great because I don't read those anymore. So that's good. But it's never great to realize that, because apparently a lot of people just hate Riley and Xander in that episode because people really side with Buffy there. Here's the thing. I don't think that this is a situation where you can look at one side as good and another side as inherently bad and just be like, yeah, that's it, and just call it a day. It's not simple. It's a complex relationship because humans are complex entities, and these are complex characters because they're trying to make them realistic. What's happening is that Buffy was not a great partner, and Riley was also not a great partner because he didn't communicate well enough to Buffy. And then the situation becomes, well, was it fair what he said to Buffy about that ultimatum or whatever? And then people were like, well, no, that was a dickish move. Buffy was going through a lot, so that was really mean of him to do that. I understand that, but like at the same time, like Xander said, he was like, who cares if it is fair? Because what Xander was doing, and this is like a point of argument that I think people might have. I'm fighting to no one right now. Like, no one has replied to me yet, and I'm already, like, defending myself. But I just want to, like, add extra thoughts to that, just so I can clarify better. Because I actually did have extra thoughts I wanted to add to that video. But if you look at the video, it was already, like, 1 hour and a half long. And while I was editing that video, I was so tired. So I was like, fuck it, just ship it. But the short version is that I don't think Xander was necessarily being patronizing. I think Xander was actually being incredibly helpful because Buffy was running away from her problems and running away from trying to like figure out what the situation was. And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that that's a wrong thing for her to do. It's completely understandable in the situation. And it was all very sudden and a lot was happening and it's all very quick. Where Xander goes in that conversation is that he says, like, he's gonna leave in, like, 20 minutes. Like, he's gone forever in, like, a couple minutes. So, I understand that you're angry. I understand that maybe it's not fair, because it's not. However, this is the reality of the situation. And what's going to happen is that if Buffy's just angry and doesn't want to talk to him ever again and doesn't want to resolve the situation, and she's just like, fuck him, that guy was a piece of shit, what's going to happen is that 2 days later, Buffy is going to feel like shit over that, and then Riley's just going to be gone. Like, he's going to be gone forever, and we're never going to have any kind of resolution to that, and Buffy's just going to feel like shit. So what Xander is saying is that he's like, listen, like, I understand that, like, this is like a lot right now, but the reality is that that dude's gone. So like, if you want to have like a moment where you can like get any degree of either resolution or even closure, like, this is all you're getting. So he made her aware of that, and that is the reality. Whether or not that is fair, that's a different topic of conversation. And what he said, which is true, is who gives a shit if it's fair? Because that's not the issue right now. Does that mean that, you know, Riley was just like a saint and Buffy had to like, you know, do everything for him or whatever? And it's like, not really. The ideal scenario, if you ask me, would have been, well, in the ideal world, she gets to Riley in time, she stops him, they hug or whatever, and then she goes, I'm sorry, I understand what you were trying to tell me, because she didn't understand before. I went on a rant about that. She just didn't get it. But now she goes like, I understood now. Like, I understand. I understand what happened. I understand what I did wrong. Let's talk about it. And then she like slaps him, and then she yells at him about like, that is for the shit that you put me through for over the past like 24 hours. And it's like, we got to talk about that also. And then Riley goes, yeah, that's fair. And then they walk off and they have like a night-long conversation over a bunch of shit. That's a path in which the relationship can like fix itself. Like, that would be the ideal ending, right? It's her realizing the things that she did wrong, which apparently she did because of Xander explaining that to her. And that is just a fact, by the way. That is not something that can be, I think, denied at this point. Like, if you just look at the way Buffy was acting and how Riley was acting, you can see that there is definitely an issue there with the relationship and how it was presented to you throughout the entire season, and maybe even a little bit in the previous season. But then she would have to be like, yeah, but like, that shit that you made me do today, like how dramatic this was, like, I am angry at you for that specifically. I understand the previous shit and that was something where I failed a little bit, but this is something else. And then that becomes a different topic of conversation, and that's fair. Like, that's actually a fair argument to have. I guess another like maybe discussion to have here is because I'm just gonna be real with you. I feel like people didn't really like Riley, and I mean this in like the fandom. I'm not sure, but the general vibe I got even in season 4 was that Riley never really, he was never someone that people super like accepted as his role in the story as like Buffy's boyfriend or whatever. Like, he wasn't as cool as Angel or as smart as Angel or anything like Angel or any other, like maybe even Spike. Spike is a more interesting character than fucking Riley, let's be honest. So maybe people are just defaulting to Buffy's side, quote unquote side, because they just don't like Riley. I understand that. At the same time, Buffy was actually kind of not a great partner. Riley wasn't either. So then maybe the conversation becomes, were they even right for each other? Which is something that I did say, and I don't think that they are. But if you actually do care enough about the other person and are willing to put in the time and put in the effort, you can actually work on that and try to make it better. That is ideally what you do in a relationship. And that's kind of what Xander said to Buffy, is that he was like, you can just fucking end this. You can break his heart and make it a clean break. Just like, yeah, fuck it. Just like, if you don't feel that you like him that much, if you don't feel like your heart is in this relationship, then fucking, okay, let it go. Like, I'm not gonna make you do that, and it's not her job to do that. But if she does have it in her to actually put in the effort and to actually work and to actually care about him, then this is your only shot. That's what that conversation was, and I really like that, and that's why I really like that that conversation with Senator. I understand that maybe some people saw us that as patronizing. Oh, and somebody in Patreon mentioned to me that maybe Xander was identifying a little bit with Riley there. I think he is identifying a little bit with Buffy there. Because like after that happens, he goes home and then he gives Anya all of the reassurance and positive reinforcement and love that she needs to reassure her that he does in fact love her and he does in fact care about her. And I think that that is one, speaking about Xander's growth as a character that we've seen this season from even last season. We got to see a lot of his like inner world and insecurities and where he comes from in like Restless. I talked about that extensively. So seeing this version of him and also kind of developing from that episode where he had like his weird clone that was also him, I think that that does a lot for Xander's character, and I think he has evolved and grown up a little bit. And I think he's seeing a little bit of himself in what Buffy is doing, and he's approaching her from the perspective of like, listen, I get it. I get it. I'm guilty of the same shit, and I'm telling you right now, you need to go and just fucking express your fucking feelings instead of running away. So she realizes that, and she goes to do that, and he does the same. He realized it, and then he went back and told Anya all the same things. And it's not that Xander was being patronizing from like, listen, like you should be doing this, Buffy. It's more like he's coming from a personal experience angle of like, this is probably the best thing to do for your partner if you really care about them. And he follows his own advice. And that's really cool for him. I actually really like that. That's why I meant that. That's what I meant when I said like, that's maybe the best Xander moment we had in the show. I understand that maybe some people would see that as like, you know, him being a dick to Buffy, him being too patronizing and harsh. And it's like, I feel like maybe he's being harsh on himself a little bit, and by extension Buffy, because they're both guilty of the same thing. But it is actually coming from a good place of wanting to see this person go to do something that's best for them. And he's right in doing so, actually. He's right in actually giving this relationship advice. So yeah, I really like that. I really like the way Xander handled that, and I really like what Buffy ended up doing. And let me be clear, I don't like Riley as a character that much, and I never liked him as a boyfriend for Buffy. I was just like, let's see where this goes, but never really did much for me. So it's not even like I'm trying to like help Riley out here. It's more so that I think from a storytelling, I think that's what the episode is doing, and I actually like it. I like it a lot. This actually goes into a different conversation that I was thinking about, like for the past like week or so. I've been thinking about this, and maybe part of the reason why is because like I saw a video on my feed that I think it was like the worst character ever in media, and it was like a picture of Xander's face, and it was like why he sucks. I didn't watch it. I don't want to because, you know, spoilers. And maybe he will be a fucking piece of dog shit character ever in the future, or maybe that video kind of goes on the angle of, you know, he's kind of a Joss self-insert, and Joss sucks as a person. So, you know, maybe that. All fair points. And I also want to say that I did not like Xander at all for maybe the first 3.5 seasons of this show. It only started to like change a little bit like throughout season 4 when it started to become a little bit more serious and not just so much, hey, he's the pervy guy who is also the levity joke guy that we never take seriously. And that's kind of always the case with Xander. I think that maybe something that happens, and this is funny because this is something I kind of said during the Dracula episode at the beginning of the season. I was like, Xander kind of has like a weird curse where it feels like he wants people to take him seriously, but the show itself doesn't take him seriously. Now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe that extends beyond the show and more so into the fan base. Because I feel like that conversation we had with Buffy was like one of his best moments, because there's like a level of self-awareness and helpfulness that is coming through there. And not just that, like initiative as well. Like he took initiative to go and try and find Buffy and try to help her by realizing something that she didn't realize before, because he realized it because of introspection that he saw in himself. It's great. And then he goes, not only tries to help Buffy, but follows his own advice, and then he goes and shows us that he's a great partner for his partner, for Anya. So, like, whenever that happens, I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's honestly really good for this fucking character who I didn't give a shit about for the majority of the fucking show. And now I'm thinking about it from maybe people not liking him, because I've now seen a couple of, you know, scatter comments of people being like, I fucking hate him. And I'm starting to feel like maybe Xander also has that curse that I mentioned extend to like the fan base, in the sense that because of Xander being the like levity comedy character who always says something that doesn't fucking matter and just makes a quirky joke. And he also is kind of the guy that we used to like. He's like the punching bag also. Like, you know, he never really solves a problem, or usually he's kind of along for the ride. He makes a joke about someone else who solves the problem. You know, he's not even smart. He's not capable. And that becomes part of his character, so that he feels very self-conscious about it. I'm starting to feel like maybe the audience sees him in that similar manner. So then when he actually takes a step forward in trying to have more agency and trying to be better and trying to be more helpful and actually become a really good friend and a really good advisor to our main character, everyone goes like, fuck him, what does he know? Fuck Sander, he's so selfish. And it's like, I think for the first time in his life, he's actually being helpful rather than selfish. Anyway, that was just a mini rant about Sander there. God, this intro's long already. Fuck my life. Okay, this should have been part of the previous video. So, sure, this is a long intro about relationships and what happened last episode. And it's funny because, again, this hasn't aired on YouTube yet. So I don't fucking know what people's reaction is going to be. And I'm not going to know because I'm not going to read the YouTube comments. But, hey, this is just an added extra I wanted to say. Because I feel like I wanted to say a lot of this previous video already. I just didn't have the time or the energy to do so, so it's all going into this video. Alright, that was a mini rant. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's also a little bit more on Sander, which we didn't get to talk to before. It's just like a thought that I had in the past couple of days about how people may or may not perceive Sander. But maybe none of this means anything. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, that's what happens a lot with this video. It's just that I say shit and immediately I'm like, yeah, but I don't like necessarily like fully 100% believe in anything, so like I'm willing to just change my mind on it because I'm not gluing myself to anything that I say. I'm just like, yeah, that could be the case, because like maybe like 2 episodes from now Sander is gonna do something so egregious and selfish that I'm immediately gonna back down on everything that I just said about him. So like that could always happen. I don't know. The thing about Riley getting his blood sucked by those vampire junk whores or whatever, that's what they call them. Yeah, that's what I call them. Is that it's like a weird like cheating analogy, but then at the same time it's not. Well, but it is, but it's not. It's like a cheating analogy and a drug analogy, but then it's weird that the show wants to put the blame on Buffy as a result of that happening, which like it is technically kind of her fault for the way that she was not being the best partner. And the relationship was falling apart and she didn't even realize it. So she has her share of the blame. And the episode makes sure to put the blame on her. And that's something about the episode and the intent of the episode that we need to acknowledge, is that the episode wants to do that. But it's weird that they decide to use the imagery and the just the general feeling of that feels like he's cheating on Buffy and that he's doing drugs. And also it's Buffy's fault. And it's very jarring. It's jarring because it doesn't feel like that's right. Because like, oh, he's cheating on her. He's not. He's just like a supernatural vampire cheating. But in a show where everything is like a metaphor of a real issue through a supernatural lens, the way that looks is that it just looks like cheating. It's not, but it looks like it. And they kind of frame it that way. And at some point, there's 2 things. One, Buffy is like, oh, you're whores or whatever. Okay, that puts the lamp on it feeling like cheating. And then also Riley at one point was like, yeah, but these girls. And it's true that specifically he only wants the girls to suck his blood. It's not a random vampire. It has to be a girl vampire. So that's an extra layer of like, okay, so there is an extra added element of they are giving you what your partner doesn't. So they are kind of your partner's stand-in, which we know that. So it is kind of like cheating. It's like emotionally cheating, which might be worse than physically cheating. So it's weird that it is kind of like cheating, not really, but kind of. And then also it tells you that it's Buffy's fault. Because of that, I completely understand someone watching this and being like, what the fuck? Fuck Riley. And fuck Sander for being such a piece of shit. He's so patronizing. Buffy's clearly the victim here. I understand that. The episode feels disjointed in that manner because they're showing you something and telling you something else. The episode feels weird because of that. Okay, that's a final thing I wanted to say about the episode that I wanted to say when I rendered the video the first time. I was fucking dying. I was so fucking tired. it was it New Year when I published that video? It was like very close to New Year. It was definitely after Christmas. So it was like, you know, that area of time between Christmas and New Year's and even like January 6th or whatever, where it's just like a period of 2 weeks where everything is a haze and you're full of cheese and you're dying. And yeah, it was that period of time. So anyway, Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in to this reaction episode to Buffy. See you guys next time. Bye. But if you would like to watch the next 2 episode reactions of Buffy as well as Angel watch-along reactions, you can do so over at the Patreon. Check out the links down below, social media, also the cool stuff that I do. See you guys next time. Bye-bye. Take care.